Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about forced speech, understanding memory attacks, forced actions, stuff like that, and how they do it, how you can probably try to combat it. Very difficult task. And I'm going to start out with a verse from Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not. Okay, understanding the memory attacks are a key, because if you do not recognize modification of your active memory, the system will cause you to briefly lose time perception, which may be enough procedural functional disorientation to influence you to respond to an injected impulse or memory attack. Blocking your real memories and injecting false memories, motivational impulses, that's what a memory attack is. Blocking your real memories and injecting false memories and motivational impulses. It is possible for the remote neural monitoring system to influence you to speak unwillingly or at very worst without you knowing it. For example, if you're susceptible to the system's influences, you may not realize that it is frequently or constantly influencing you to make minor choices. These motivational impulses can also be used to influence you in a manner that will give you the desire to speak. And I emphasize desire because you need to understand these impulses will only make you feel the urge at higher levels set by the attackers, or basic motivation at baseline levels to perform the task it's influencing you to do. Now, for perfect example, one night I put broccoli in a plastic container and put it in the oven. Okay, and my girlfriend said, David, you said you put some vegetables somewhere and you were going to cook vegetables and you were looking in all the cabinets and stuff. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. Well, come to find out, 2 days later, I went to put something in the oven and there was broccoli and a plastic container in the oven. So they had made me do something without me remembering it. Now, in combination with the motivation to speak, the system uses past memory references to direct you. For example, your personal memory of turning and speaking, well, in my example, to my girlfriend, the associated impulse. And when I react to this influence, the system will block my working memory while streaming the desired output, which will result in me making one or more statements under the system's control, usually bad statements. And I don't remember I've done it until I'm told I've done it. Happens all the time. They will test this on you frequently with word substitution, and if you can learn to control this in thought, then you can control it while speaking, but you must learn to read active memory. If you cannot recognize modification of your active memory, then after the forced speech attack, it's possible you'll have no recollection of making the statement. As you learn to defeat the predictive capabilities of the system by reading active memory, testing and validating your own thoughts, you will see that attempts to restrict your reference choices will become increasingly evident. You will begin to perceive what I describe as functional duality. It might be also described as focal duality within your working memory. The PERP system prediction error rate will dramatically increase, and its attempts to predict your thoughts or your intentions will become humorous, if not simply annoying. So you got to learn to read active memory. Okay. And I think as you learn by reading active memory, which is testing and validating your own thoughts. That's what active memory is. Learn to test and validate your own thoughts. Seeing the relationship between your own previous memory references and the system output, which can be a specific memory or emotion previously captured by the remote neuromonitoring system and now replayed perpetually in your mind, is critical to understanding how to control and ultimately defeat thought-triggered attacks, in addition to preventing the attackers from deceiving and manipulating you. You should be able to redirect the system during formulation, collecting data by reading your mind, is what formulation is, or prevent predictive integration. Predictive integration is interpretation of data from injected thoughts and impulses. Again, interpretation of data from injected thoughts of impulses is what predictive integration is. So you should be able to prevent predictive integration, or you should be able to prevent interpretation of data from injected thoughts and impulses altogether. But when you realize to stop integration, realize that the system will be waiting for completion and will probe you for a response. It will begin to inject again if you attempt to ignore it. If successful, you will notice They will also abuse you in every way possible to convince you that they're in control, when you will be able to see clearly that they are nothing more than idiots who need to spend more time studying the systems they're abusing people with. If the system's suggestions are not acceptable to you, and they won't be if you're constantly blocking or redirecting it, then this will result in you making a continuous effort to counter the imposition of the thoughts and impulses while contrasting your working state to maintain active focus. Although by cooperating and allowing the system to interpret and define your daily activity, you may find suggestions become more tolerable, as the system is designed to mimic your normal cognitive behavior. I would recommend not allowing this, as you will tend to notice more readily accept the system's influence. And the purpose of the system influence you in this manner is to give the attackers the ability to restrict you at will, or allow them to deceive or manipulate you subconsciously. You can only counter these restrictions if you're able to contrast the system's influence from your own willful activity. Everyone who is hearing B2K is being monitored in this manner and being influenced in this way as well. The phrases you are hearing should be related to the information captured during the silent monitoring period, and will eventually be used as the foundation for your endless verbal harassment. What they do is a game of deception and manipulation, nothing more. Do not accept anything they say as truth. Do not acknowledge anything the system interrogates you about as truth. The system will take random bits of anything it captures through your senses and fabricate stories which they will use to harass and interrogate you, with no intention other than to distract and torture you into submission to the system's influence. And that's all. And I'm fixing to play another video that's an example of this and what they do. Hope you like it. It's fixing to be merged in right now.
So the way this worked was they put human beings inside an fMRI machine. They had them look at images and figure out what the patterns are, like translate from image to brain patterns. And then, of course, they would hide the image. So this is a image of a giraffe that the computer has never seen. It's only looking at the fMRI data, and this is what the computer thinks the human is seeing. Yeah. Now, to get state of the art, here's where the combinatorial aspects, why you can start to see these are all the same demo. To do this kind of imaging, the latest paper, the one that happened even after this, which is already better, uses stable diffusion, uses the thing that you use to make art. Like, what should a thing that you use to make art have anything to do with reading your brain? But of course it goes further. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Mind you, by the way, when you dream, like your visual cortex runs in reverse, so your dreams are no longer safe. But we'll try this. So they had people watch a video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So there's a woman, she gets hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. See a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she is knocked off. So our thoughts, are starting to be decoded. Yeah, just think about what this means for authoritarian states, for instance. Or if you want to generate images that maximally activate your pleasure sensor, anything else. Okay, but let's keep going, right? To really get the sense of the combinatorics of this. How about, can we go from Wi-Fi radio signals, sort of like the Wi-Fi routers in your house, they're bouncing off radio signals that work sort of like sonar. Can you go from that to where human beings are, to images? So what they did is they had, a camera looking at a space with people in it. That's sort of like coming in from one eye. The other eye is the radio signals, so sonar from the Wi-Fi router. And they just learned to predict, this is where the human beings are. Then they took away the camera. So all the AI had was the language of radio signals bouncing around a room. And this is what they're able to reconstruct. Real-time 3D pose estimation, right? So suddenly AI has turned every Wi-Fi router into a camera that can work in the dark, specially tuned for tracking living beings.